So, the Mistral is still relevant after around 5 whole weeks, which is equal to like 6 months in machine learning age. I sometimes try to write or record some stuff, but before I finish it, a new breakthrough happens and some things become irrelevant. For example, now we have another 7B leader here, which is Dolphin 2.1 from E. Hartford. As of October 2023, some 7B Mistral fine-tunes are performing better than their much bigger counterparts, like 30 billion Llama 2 models and some 70 billion Llama 1 models. I've always said go for the biggest, but this has become a bad advice at the moment, because as you can see, some smaller models do perform better. And Lima paper also suggests that, so sometimes less is better. It seems like we need to refine our data instead of throwing everything into the machine. But of course, I'm no expert, I'm just a guy with ADHD that finds machine learning interesting, so I try to simplify everything. If I say something wrong, please correct me. Other than that, let's go back to the model. Okay, let's keep it short. This fine-tune was trained by Eric Hartford, who is kind of a now celebrity considering his contributions to the open source projects. According to the description of Dolphin 2.1, this is an even more unaligned version of Mistral, which checks out with the high score. It turns out that if you suppress some data in the model, it becomes dumber. What a surprise. Just imagine how much smarter GPT-4 would be if it wasn't for the OpenAI's lobotomy. Let's go visit TheBloke as always and find the GGUF model. Of course you can use other versions too, but I prefer GGUF because I think it's easier to use and it's also only one file. Not these. This. Right here. So the good thing is you don't have to have a GPU to run this. You can use it on your, you can run it on your RAM, and you'll get something like 3 tokens per second, which is not great, but also kinda usable. If you have an old GPU with less VRAM, you can just offload some of the layers and speed up the process. But either way, there is no computer that cannot run this right now. You shouldn't download anything below Q4 because these are not going to perform well since the parameter count is really low. If you were downloading something like 70 billion, Q3 versions would be working well, but when it's 7 billion, it's not gonna perform well. The perplexity will be so much higher. I already downloaded the Q8 version. Now let's run this on Uba Booga, and we are here. So let's go to the model section. Now I have a ton of models. Let's pick the Dolphin 2.1. I don't want to use all the context right now because it's not necessary for me. I'm just gonna use 8K and just get 40 layers in. I guess it's less than 40 layers, but it doesn't matter what you write in here. If you have enough VRAM, that is. If you don't, you can just start with 20 and keep increasing it until you hit a wall that you get where you get the out of memory error. I'm not gonna tick that because this used to be the other way around, was to activate the mulmud kernels. So, but let's keep moving. Just gonna use 6 threads because my CPU has 6 threads, and let's load it. Yep, as you can see, it's using 35 layers and 7.2 gigs of VRAM. Actually, as you can see, it's using nearly 9 gigs of VRAM because we are using some for the context. If I had gotten the 32K option, this would be over 12 gigabytes of VRAM. So if you wanna run this on only GPU, you can just get the context size lower. So one thing you must change here is you must go to the parameters tab, instruction template, and this model does not use alpaca. If you use it with alpaca, you are gonna get really bad answers. So we are going to click here and select the chat ML. And here you can also write some prompt like you are a helpful assistant, because this part will be sent with your prompt as an instruction. Instruction mode is actually just this notebook and these parameters here, so it's not something entirely different. Let's go back to parameters because I'm going to change something else too. I'm going to get to the generation and I'm going to use mirrostat 2 with 2.5 tau and 0.2 ETA. Here I'm going to also change this to 768, and that should be it. So, I'm going to make the Dolphin write a short story, explain the concept, and simplify the abstract of a paper. Then I will make the GPT-4 rate the explanation and simplification. However, please keep in mind that this is not a good way to judge a model's capacity because there are way too many factors like the seed, preset, and the wording of my prompts. I'm just doing a showcase for fun. First off, I'm going to ask a scientific hypothetical question. I want to see how creative and factual the model is. Okay, let's take this answer and ask GPT-4 if this is a good answer or not. This is going to be my template. I'm asking GPT-4 to rate it out of 100. I'm asking it to rate the factual accuracy, formatting, and relevancy of the answer. And I'm also asking it to explain the reasoning in a few sentences. Of course, this is not really reliable. If I regenerate this, it's probably going to be something else, like maybe 90, maybe 85. Either way, I'm satisfied with the score. 88 is quite good. Let's go back to the UBA and do the second question.
In the desolate valley of Morningwood, nestled amongst the shadows and whispers of ancient trees, dwelt a malevolent tribe of goblins. The villagers of nearby Ravenmoor had long lived in fear of these vile creatures, but never before had they dared to venture so close to their lair. On an ominous night, when the moon hid behind a shroud of darkness, the goblins descended upon Ravenmoor like a plague of locusts. They screeched and howled with delight as they razed the village to the ground, leaving nothing but twisted wreckage in their wake. As the villagers cowered in terror, their screams echoing through the night like a mournful symphony, the goblins feasted upon their flesh and drank from their spilled blood. They gouged out eyes, severed limbs, and carved grisly trophies into their victims' skin as they reveled in the carnage. When dawn broke, the sun dared not to show its face, as if it too were ashamed of what had transpired beneath its watchful gaze. The few survivors of Ravenmoor fled into the surrounding wilderness, their lives forever scarred by the horrors they had witnessed and endured. The goblins, sated and triumphant, returned to their lair, leaving behind a trail of gore and despair in their wake. They sang songs of victory and danced around the smouldering remains of Ravenmoor, celebrating their gruesome feast as they awaited their next chance to unleash their terror upon an unsuspecting world.
And this was the story. I admit that it's a little bit too verbose, but I think it's quite good for a 7 billion model, especially considering that GPT-4 wouldn't even write such a story because it's aligned to be nice and good and pure. You can try it yourself, like ask it to write a gory horror story and it just won't. Even if it does, the stories are always the same, moral and good vibes and other kind of cookie cutter shit. And last of all, let's make the model simplify and summarize the abstract below. I think it looks good. Let's also make GPT-4 rate the answer. Again, I'm using the same template. So we got an A+, which is again incredibly impressive considering the fact that model has only 7 billion parameters. Overall, I think Dolphin 2.1 is the best bang for your buck model available. The main attraction of these models are privacy, role-playing, and the fact that they are free. I would say at this point running a local Mistral fine-tune might be better than using GPT 3.5 Turbo. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my video. You can download the model from Huggingface for free. Please let me know in the comments if you also found this model useful. Bye!